Israeli forces have recovered the body of Yousef Zyadna, 53, a Arab hostage taken by Hamas in Gaza. His son Hamza remains unaccounted for, raising serious concerns over his fate. The Zyadna family received this tragic news as US-led efforts for a new ceasefire and hostage release deal are close to success. Meanwhile, 3 Israeli soldiers died and 3 others were wounded in intense clashes in the northern Gaza Strip. The casualties include Staff Sergeants Matyahu Yakarov, Panel Kanu, Kaza and Nevo Fisher, all serving with 101st Armored Brigade. In Gaza, health officials report 51 more Palestinian deaths, bringing the overall death toll to nearly 46,000 since the start of the conflict. As we dive into this, we're going to first speak to our reporter Aditya Wadwan. Aditya, what are the most recent updates from Gaza?
Well, as you mentioned, Tom, the body of an Israeli hostage has been recovered. That was earlier in Hamas captivity. Now all these things are coming up when the ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel is likely to happen. But at the same time, what is happening is that there have been blame game from both the sides. Israeli defense forces are continuing to attack the Hamas hideouts in and around Gaza Strip and North Gaza and Central Gaza. And on the other side, Hamas is claiming that Israel is not accepting the conditions as laid down, as per which the ceasefire process is to move forward. Recently what we have seen that President Donald Trump has also threatened that if all the Israeli hostages are not released before he takes oath as the President of the United States, all hells will break loose. So it needs to be seen as to in which direction this entire process goes, because so far there has been no positive development between both the sides. But recently Hamas also released a list of 34 Israeli hostages that it might release. Yes, Tom, back to you in the studio.
Aditya, for a discussion on this topic, we are joined by Aaron Levarko, Israeli television and live from Israel, and we're also joined by Gautam Mukherjee in the studio. Aaron, I wanted to come to you first. I was wondering, how might the discovery of this body affect future attempts to secure the safety of the other hostages kept in Gaza?
Yeah, thank you. It definitely dampens the atmosphere here in Israel. The mood is once again sober. At the same time, there is a sector of our society that are enraged, not only by the fact that it wasn't just a body returned, it was a murdered body returned. He wasn't even Jewish. He was a Bedouin, a Muslim, a father of 19 children. Of course, in the Bedouin community, you're allowed, in the Muslim community, you're allowed up to 4 wives. So there's this man wasn't a soldier, or he wasn't out there fighting. He was a farmer. So the fact that a man like him, and by the way, his son is still believed to be in captivity. 2 of his children were released in November after October the 7th. So there was a lot of hope that he and his other son, this is a whole family, 4 people in one family that were kidnapped. And so there was hope that he and his other son would also be released. But sadly, his murdered dead body was returned, and this has put pressure on our government, because a sector of our society are enraged not only at the murder, but they're enraged at the government. They're saying, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you acting faster? And this is what many people believe is Hamas's strategy. The strategy to put pressure on our government and bring disunity here in Israel.
Gautam Mukherjee, I wanted to come to you on this next one. Obviously, we had comments from Trump yesterday saying all hell will break loose if the hostages are not released before his inauguration. What is the importance of the ongoing mediation by the US?
Well, I think they want the hostage crisis to end because without that, it is very difficult to bring the war to a close. I think Trump, above all, wants to uh, bring about a ceasefire and a rapprochement in terms of how to maintain the peace after all of the dust settles down. Now, he is credited with the Abraham Accords, which was probably the most significant breakthrough in the Middle East, engineered and brokered by the US, and that was in his first term. Now, the process of Gaza rearming with Iranian help and coming back into a warlike situation is, not a solution. Today, they are largely smashed, and it may take a little bit of time, but they will come back because the financing of the Hamas and the Hezbollah and the Houthis and the various other um, Islamic bodies who are active in the region, in Syria as well, Islamic ISIS. All of these people, if they continue to be financed by Iran and equipped by Iran with any amount of weapons and missiles and so on, this is not going to end at all. It's going to die down for a while and then come back again. So the only true solution is sitting down with all sides, as well as Iran, and possibly doing something about the regime in Iran so that this war comes to an end once and for all, because it is the Ayatollah regime in Iran that is causing this constant conflict. And you have heard reports that many people in Iran are quite dissatisfied. Iran is a highly populous country, and both men and women, ordinary people, are highly dissatisfied with the rule of the Ayatollahs, and the time may have come for America to intervene to bring about a worthwhile regime change. America often intervenes to bring about regime changes in strange ways in countries like Bangladesh. And I don't know how that has helped either the American interests or the interests of the local area that involve India, Myanmar, China, Pakistan, etc. They've just turned this into a bit of a unstable area. But bringing about regime change in Iran could result in a more enduring peace, particularly with all the constituents of the Abrahamic Accords helping to bring it about.
Aaron, I wanted to come up to you on this next one. How could this development impact Prime Minister Netanyahu's pledge to bring home all the captives, dead or alive? Obviously, there are 95 captives still in Gaza. 34 are presumed deceased by Israel.
Well, I would imagine that he, along with the Mossad, probably with the CIA, they are working day and night to try all they can. This is a priority. At the same time, as our friend, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Gautam
Yes.
Thank you. As he said, if we can sit down, if we can talk it through, if we can somehow come to a table and try to negotiate it in a friendly term, even if it's a cold friendly term. But what do we do in the meantime while we're being fired at? This is a problem. There is what's called a preemptive strike, and there's also what's called preemptive defense. We know, we're getting reports that the Iranians are planning another attack in areas like Judea and Samaria, where yesterday 3 Israelis were murdered. There are reports that there is an imminent big assault ready to break out there. So this is a very difficult, sensitive moment. There are many, many people who say, first we should focus on getting the captives back, then worry about the war and defense. But there are others who say we cannot afford that with the kind of enemies that are in our neighborhood. They just want to wipe us, Israel, off the map. Even Muslims, even Bedouins. It's not just a Jewish thing here. So this is definitely putting pressure on our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and let's see what happens on January the 20th when President Trump, they say a new sheriff is coming to town. Let's see what happens then. And as our other friend who spoke first said, he quoted Trump saying, all hell will break loose if the hostages aren't returned. So there's a lot at stake here. We got to see how it all works itself out.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both our guests for joining us.